What's going on, Thieves fans? This weekend, the Thieves had a break-even weekend, going 1-1 against their matches in LAG and Optic. To start things off, the LA Thieves played against the Los Angeles Guerrillas, and to be completely honest, it really wasn't much of a series. It was a 3-1 victory for the Thieves, and their only loss was in the search column, but they continued to play really well in their respawns. Map 1 was an embassy hardpoint where the Thieves won 250 to 89, and the Thieves were playing extremely well. Everybody on their team kind of had everything going for them, and LAG just couldn't really get the ball rolling. Thieves were doing their thing. As we've kind of talked about in previous videos, the Thieves were able to break hills pretty easily. Their holds were a little better against LAG. Octane and Envoy were the leading slayers for the Thieves. Octane was 21-9 with 20 non-traded kills in 2+ minutes in the hardpoint, and Envoy was 21-16. So they really pushed the pace for the entire Thieves roster, allowing the Thieves to 100-point club LAG. Map 2 was a Fortress Search and Destroy where the Thieves lost 6-4. They started off pretty well. They were 4-2 in round count, but LAG was able to bring it back to a 4-4 round count, and Kenny ended up going into a big turning point 1v2, and he had the read on him. He just didn't pick the right corner to check and ended up dying and losing that round, which kind of pushed LAG to get a little bit more momentum to finish out the map at a 6-4 round count. I would say the biggest takeaway from that search for the Thieves was that Kenny actually went 12-9, which is probably his best performance of the major so far, since he really hasn't been able to do too much in the search. It's unfortunate the Thieves lost with him playing as well as he did, but it was kind of a little bit of a weird map. Even some of the Thieves players would say that themselves, so not too much to stress about in my opinion, but they need to be able to win the searches so that way they can lead in a series without having to win respawns every time. Map 3 was in a CeeLo control where the Thieves won 3-0. It was really a strong performance from the Thieves. They prevented Arcides from really doing anything. He only went 3-11, so he did not have a great game. And despite Kenny going 0-4 to start the first round, both Envoy and Octane started off hot with 7 kills each. The Thieves' defensive round was also really dominant. They only allowed LAG 1 tick overall. And despite Kenny not having the best map stat wise, he played positioning really well that allowed Thieves to get into the right spots in order to make plays and allowed the team to take points pretty much at will, leading to a solid 3-0 win. For the fourth and final map, there's really not too much to talk about. It was a hotel hardpoint where the Thieves won 250 to 102. As I've said in previous hardpoint matchups, it was pretty much the same thing. It was very one-sided, and Octane dominated again with a 30-11 stat line with 25 non-traded kills, and Drazah was 24-13. So the ARs were really just slaying out in that matchup, making it really hard for LAG to get anything moving. So for the second matchup, the Thieves played Optic Texas, where they had a little bit more of a rough showing and they ended up losing 3-1. Their map 1 was a hotel hardpoint where the Thieves lost 250 to 151. Kenny and Hook both had hot starts, but the biggest problem for the Thieves was that they really couldn't hold a lot of rotations. They would get there early, but then Optic was able to just break in really anytime they wanted, similar to what the Thieves has done to other teams. And even though the Thieves were still able to break fairly well against Optic, they just gave up too many early holds that they had, allowing Optic to just kind of take over the match really quickly. Thieves were really unable to get too many trades throughout the entire map, and it shows with Hook's stat line going 27-18 with 21 untraded kills. He was breaking a lot of hills pretty easily, getting 2 pieces, and realistically that should not be happening from the Thieves. They should at least get traded out and be able to hold based on that. But like I said, with them getting broken really easily, that obviously leads to multiple people dying without getting a trade. So that's something that I think they have fixed up a little bit. It was just, as I said in my previous video, Optic is a really good hardpoint team, and so any little mistake that you make will show up against that team. Like the previous series, map 2 was a Fortress Search, but in this one, it was a little worse for Thieves. They went 6-1 and pretty much just got beat up by Optic. There's no really way around it. I feel like it was still another one that was a little bit of a weird map, but this is a map that Optic is really good on, and them losing that first hard point was a little scary going into this search, knowing that this is a good map for Optic, especially when it comes to search and destroy. The Thieves started off really aggressive, but they still started off the map 4-0. And similar to the first map, Hook was really the guy that stood out in the search and destroy as well. He ended up going 10-1, where he had a big 2v1 clutch that, in my opinion, should not have happened. It was a similar situation to what we've seen in previous matchups, where the Thieves have two people kind of pushing at different times in order to take the challenge against one person, and it ends up leading in that player getting a two-piece. So as somebody who doesn't play professionally and is not a coach, I don't know if those are the right plays and they're just not executing exactly where they're supposed to, or if what they're doing is just not right at all. As a fan, sometimes it can be really frustrating. Similar to the Abizi 2v1, that's kind of what it made me feel like, was that they both should have just challenged at the same time and they didn't. But like I said, I'm not a professional player. I'm not a coach. That's just my opinion on it. And maybe they did play it right and it just didn't work out in their favor. I really don't know, but it can be a little frustrating when that is a circumstance that we have seen multiple times for the Thieves. So hopefully that's something that can be toned down a little bit going into the tournament portion of this major. And to make things worse, Octane and Envoy both went 2-7, and there were a lot of team kills as well coming from the side of Thieves. One was a stun coming from either Kenny or Drazah. I don't remember which one specifically. Just some more things that the Thieves can't allow to happen, especially in a search against one of the best teams in the game right now, if not the best. The Map 3 Expo Control was the one shining star for the Thieves in this matchup. They ended up going 3-0 in it, and we have never seen the Thieves play Expo. This was the second time, I believe, seeing Optic play Expo, and Kenny really carried at the start of the match. He was 14-1, and one of his deaths that didn't end up counting, but he had, was a team kill from Octane. It was just a random cross-map shot that Octane was trying to kill somebody by Kenny, and one of his bullets strayed and ended up hitting Kenny while he was weak. So that was an unfortunate death from him, but outside of that, he started off super hot and seriously was just moving like a different player. Speaking of Octane, Octane kind of picked up the pace when Kenny started to slow down. With Kenny going 14-1 early, it was kind of surprising that he ended with only 18 kills. Octane, on the other hand, was 30-13 and had 24 non-traded kills. So another showing of Octane really just showing out and being a dominant AR and showing why he is the human turret. The fourth and final map of this series was a Mercado hardpoint where the Thieves lost 250-204, and it was really unfortunate how it ended. The Thieves really had a good start to the map. Octane himself was 7-1. The Thieves were getting a lot of good holds and they were able to chain some hills pretty early on, showing kind of the opposite of what they did in the first hardpoint. Things started going downhill when Shotzzy started to heat up. He ended up going 29-23, and I would say kind of led the charge into Optic being able to chain some hills towards the end. Obviously with Mercado, this is a chain heavy hardpoint, and they were able to chain a couple hills right after the Thieves had broke 200 points. So the Thieves were up to start it off, but then once they started breaking hills pretty easily, the Thieves were not able to break back in, and the final hill that the Thieves could have held, they got broken really easily, which led to Optic finishing out the map. And overall for the series, I would just say that the Thieves kind of came out flat really early. I think if they would have started off a little different in their hardpoint, even if they would have lost, I think if it would have been a closer matchup, I think that could have led to a possibly better outcome in their search and maybe just a higher morale going into their next hardpoint. Also, going back to my last video, one of the things that I had mentioned that the Thieves could not allow was they couldn't allow Hook and Shotzzy to get going, and Hook had a great series. And in the map that Hook didn't play as well as he did in the previous maps, Shotzzy was the one who really stepped it up. So, as I said in the previous video, they couldn't allow that to happen because if they did, they would lose, and that's exactly what happened. They allowed Hook to get going early, and then when Hook slowed down, Shotzzy got going, and they lost. I mean, you know, there's no other way to put it, unfortunately. Their second hardpoint was a lot better than their first, but overall, they still just couldn't hold as well as they need to, and you can't just rely on breaks. I think it's good to have that in your arsenal and to be able to break just about any team. But if you are not able to hold against teams like the Optics and the Phases and maybe even the Ultras, you're going to struggle in winning hardpoints if you can't hold a hardpoint. And on top of that, their search and destroy showings have still kind of been subpar. I think there's some things that they need to get figured out. And hopefully they're making waves on that, because you can't win championships without search and destroy. But it was a rough showing against Optic. Hopefully they can have some things figured out going into the tournament portion of this major. But the bright side was that their control still looks really good. And against a team like Optic, who has very good slaying potential, that's definitely a positive, especially knowing that that is the swing point of a series. If Thieves can keep up the control the way they have, I think that'll be solid. As I said before, they just need to figure out their searches and then their holds specifically in hardpoint. That's going to do it for today's video. If you guys want to see some more updates on the Thieves, go ahead and follow my ThievesTalk page on Twitter. I will have that linked in the description. And if you would like to follow me personally, go ahead and check out my Twitter as well. I will have that linked underneath the ThievesTalk Twitter. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and go ahead and hit that bell so that way you get notified every time I post a new video. With all that being said, that's going to be it for me, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. See ya.